I like to have my Eclipse project error free, and there's, as you can see, there's a little dots in here and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of, let's refresh. Hopefully this has created our project. As you can see, a lot of entities have been added, very long, so it's almost a complete system that you have in here. So let's clean the Eclipse in here, and there's other stuff that I need to show you as well with it. So I'm going to hide these files because of them. This is, if you go up, what we've created is a Maven and Java project. The little m stands for Maven, and J for the Java project, basically. So, but we have a lot of JavaScript stuff in here. So it will not recognize some of these things. So what we need to do is we need to tell the filters of Eclipse to ignore these files where we have the thing. So if we right click the project, and then we go to filters, so the resources and resource filters, and we add here, we tell exclude, and then folders, and I'm going to say node modules. We don't want Eclipse to remember that. Also, we don't want .vp. I think this file is created because I have a Visual Studio Code plugin in here that I use for sometimes I open the project with. I use for the front end. So this exclude and then say folders, and then we'll have that. There is another one. I'll come back for it before I apply the third one. I can't see it. It's fine. So JDL files as well. They're giving us trouble. So we need to it doesn't recognize. We need to tell it to actually project level. We need to tell it to ignore. So properties, and then resource, and then I'm going to say exclude all, and then these are files, so I'm going to say all the files that .jdl, ignore them as well. So those have been ignored, but we still have some more problems, and I think these are related to the JPA Metamodel generator, and these are the classes that it has generated normally, main one. But there's also it generates files that go under generated sources folders, and we need to tell Eclipse to ignore that as well. Actually, to register those ones as source folders, so that when our code is looking for, because of if you click on one of these queries like a company, and you go at the bottom, it looks for files that end with underscore. As you can see, I think you can't see the underscore properly because of the red line underneath. So the way to tell that is because this is an annotation processor, so we need to right click our project and to enable, basically go to here under Java compiler, and then go to Annotation Processing and enable where it says Annotation Processing, and all our annotation process generated files will go under apt generated. This is a new source directory that the new Eclipses normally have. So apt, and the test ones would also go under there. The normal ones would go under there. So we need to apply that, and then it'll say it's building, but it will have still have problems. So what we need to do now is under annotation, we need to extend it, and then we need to go to factory path in there, and then we need to enable project specific settings, and further go to add a variable. But what we're trying to do is we need to extend the Maven, because the files we're looking for, the jar files it's looking for, are downloaded by Maven under Hibernate folder. So rather than just copying and putting it externally, and then it's better that we just extend that build path variable, and then just go directly to, let's type here org. I think Hibernate goes under org, and if we scroll down, and then actually let me further go Hibernate under org, and we have Hibernate now, and I'm going to say maybe this time we can find it easier. This is the file, the one we want, hibernate-jpa model generator, and the particular jar file we want is this one, that jar file, and if we OK it, and it's because we've extended the repository, the environment variable to it, so we have that also prefixed with our thing. So we just click OK, and hopefully now our project will be clean as it builds. So it'll take a while to build it, so it's validating. Oh, so now our project is clean. And if we have a look at whether we have the generated files under here, under generated folder there, we can see that all the files, the entities with underscore that has been generated for this particular reason, that are in there. So now we're clean. Now let's move on and go to the second follow-on instruction. So we've done this part. Now let's just highlight it. What happened? I didn't want the text, I wanted the background. Unless I'm doing it again. Yep, that's fine. Highlighted. Next thing we need to do is we need to add, because I'm going to show you also how to use a liquid base to update the database and sync some of the data that we have copied. So we need to make sure that the MySQL, actually this is the Docker one, adding MySQL root user and password to host MySQL Docker. One thing I like to, and sometimes I use my locally installed Docker database, MySQL database, but most of the time I like to launch MySQL database as a Docker, and I don't want it to log in every time and create a new database and set the username and password and all that kind of stuff. So what I normally do is I just go to the sources and where the Docker is, and go to Docker, and yeah, and then MySQL there. That's the MySQL Docker file that we need to, and it says here accept any password, so it doesn't require any password, so just empty password. What we need to create is root password basically for this, and there's two more entries that I need to add in here. The first one is MySQL root password, and that equals to 1, 2, 3. Let's say just something simple for this demo. Actually, it will remain there for a while, but at least while we're developing. The next thing is another one I need is the MySQL root host. I'm going to say percentage. So that means you can access that database from any IP address, not just a local host or something like that. So and we have the password set now properly. So when we're launching MySQL, so it will also take that name as a service, and then it will be, if Docker will download that image for us automatically into our local computer and build it, basically a rabbit to run with this one. So now let's move on to the that's been done. So one step selected, we think we're doing well. Selected MySQL password, yeah. That takes a long time, but honestly it helps me, so please bear with me. So the other thing is we need to add a root password to the application's YAML, all the application's application YAML file, and also the Pom XML files. And this is because we have now a root user and password, so our Spring Boot applications application file need to match, and also we need to modify the Pom XML file for the liquid-based command line generations. Let's quickly and also when it's not only command line, but every time your application runs and it needs to update, the application uses liquid-based in the background to generate to update the database, basically with the generated change sets or change logs. So the next thing we need to do now is let's start with the Pom XML file because it's closer, and then look for the word, because root, I think the root is the there. So under here we don't have a password, as you can see, so let's put 1 2 3 4 was the password that we had in there. So now liquid base is sorted. Next thing is our configuration files for Spring, and that was under resources here, config, and we need to go for the start with the development one, and let's say here root 1 2 3 4, and let's go to the production one as well, and 1 2 3 4. Now we're sorted with the database. Let's quickly go back to this. It's still boring at the beginning, but you'll see when we start launching. So this one is done. Next thing is delete existing Docker containers and images, because what we're going to start is we need to clean up. I need to launch the MySQL database, but I need to make sure that there's nothing else running in the database in MySQL. It'll take a while to download the containers and all that kind of stuff, but I don't want a conflict. So let's quickly clear this, and let's say let's see if there's anything running. Docker PS. There's something else that's running. So let's stop this, all this stuff that's running. Okay. We do Docker stop, and then we don't want to individually do it, so we can do it by script back on a loop. So let's say Docker PS AQ. So it will automatically kill all these for us one by one. And now let's do Docker PS. Let's see if there's anything else running. Do Docker PS just to see if there's some that are not running. We have all these are not running, so we don't want them as well. So we need just to give them, because we've just stopped them, the containers still exist. So we just say rm remove these containers, we don't want them. So if we just do again same command, they're gone. And now let's check it if the image, because Docker first downloads images and then it creates many containers from those images and then it runs them. So let's check Docker image if they exist. obviously they do because we have containers in here, so obvious. So we have these images, MySQL, the concept previously I've created, so I need to also go through the same process and delete them images. And what I need to do is, rather than rm, I need to say rmi, which I includes image. So that would delete all the images. Sorry about that. I should have cleaned it beforehand. It's taking a while. So it's a lot of it. So let's repeat that and see if they have been cleared. But yeah, we have no image at all. Now we have cleared. So the next thing we need to do, because we are in here, we need to launch our MySQL database. So to do that, we've done that in the previous video, so it's not much different. So we do docker compose, and then the file name is, we specify the files root, which is main docker, and then MySQL, and then we say up, but also run it in the background as a daemon. So just run it. So what it's doing now, it's downloading, obviously. Not bad, my internet's not that bad, actually. It's doing well. I thought it would take time. But it's downloading now that image, and then it will run it for us automatically. We'll check if we are connected to the correct database and stuff. So now it's ready. Let's see if it's docker ps. It's running. So we need that ID to connect it to the to that database it's running. And we have 336 open for us, listening to any IP address. I'm sorry, what did I go there for? Okay. I need to log into the to the Docker, isn't it? Docker exec, and I'm going to say interactive, and the thing I want is the ID of MySQL, because now we have the username and password. So what we need to do is we need to say -b -p, and then what was the password? 1234, I think, is what we've configured it to. Let's try. So we are in, and let's say show databases, if there is any databases existing in there. Yep, and our database is there. Let's use it. We're in MySQL. So we're in that. I don't know if you guys can see. It's gonna. I don't want it to go to the corner and bring it to the middle. Okay. The next thing is to. Let me see if I can bring this up. So. Okay, what we need to do now is, let's see if they have any tables. It shouldn't have any tables because it's empty, and we also need to make sure that the database we've logged on. Sometimes I mistakenly go into the computer one, so we need to, it's a Docker one, which should have the same. So normally they do select and say host name, and it will tell us what host this MySQL database server is running on. So, and that is the one we've copied, actually. So we now know that we are in Docker. So let's exit this Docker container and just clear this so that we go to the top. So now let's go to our list and see where we are now. We've done that, and the next thing is Elasticsearch. for those guys. Seeing that. Elasticsearch is very tricky. So what we could do is we could run our application right now, even though we'll run Elasticsearch. But what I need to do is configure ElasticSearch file and run Elasticsearch on Docker. Okay. Let's run it, and I'm going to show you something as well. Interesting stuff that normally I don't do, but I'll get lost. So Elasticsearch Docker file is here, and I need to add the settings to something. So what the reason why I need to add this is because I need to use a container. Normally you can directly interact with Elasticsearch with command line or with via RESTful APIs, but Docker container or application called a web UI for Elasticsearch so that you can browse it and all that kind of stuff. So for that to work, I have some settings I saved here because I previously tested and it worked for me. So hopefully while I'm demoing this, it should work. So let's set this in here. Just up to the command. In the environment, so let's put this in there. So basically we're just setting some extra parameters, like the port is, I think its port is already set in there, so we don't need to, but it should work. It doesn't matter if you repeat it. But so we're telling it to also the course to be enabled, otherwise you won't be able to access it from via the browser. And by default, normally Elasticsearch that you launch with your JHipster is not secured, and you can access it in any way. You can get the data via API, RESTful APIs, and that kind of stuff. But there is a Elasticsearch itself is a completely different topic. So there is many ways to secure it, and one of the things that if you go into production with it is to use. There is something called XPack that comes with it, but it's not free, and a lot of people like to use just free stuff. But for this, this XPack has like it's one tool for all. So there used to be a lot of tools that basically plugins that Elasticsearch used to have, which you used to configure separately. But for this one, it's one stop for all of this. And the areas that normally you need to worry about when you're talking about Elasticsearch is like security is one of them. Another one is alerting. Another one is monitoring. Another one is reporting. Another one is graphs and machine learning and all that kind of stuff. So there is XPack it can do all this for you. But if you wanted something free, there is also alternatives, so open source alternatives. Like for security, you could use SearchGuard, and they're sometimes very tricky to set up. But if you're just a developer, it's what you live for, basically, just to face challenges and fix them. So that is the Elasticsearch area. I'm gonna, in future tutorials, I'll show you how this is done, because we have previously configured a couple of projects for these, and secured them, so we know what you could face. So if you just use Elasticsearch as it is and you just leave it free in production, your data, anyone who has the URL of your Elasticsearch can get all your data, basically, that kind of stuff. And I'll show you how you can access as well from browser as well, from command line, and from this web user interface. So now that we have, hopefully these settings will not break anything. Let's launch Elasticsearch. See what Docker is running in here. Quickly, just to see. So that one is running. MySQL, let's see if it's launched properly without any problems, which we know that because we've logged onto it, so we don't even need to test it. So let's quickly do the same thing for Elasticsearch. We say append, because I want to run the application when it has all the tool, all the other technologies that it depends on. So I'm not going to run it yet until I have Elasticsearch, MySQL, and everything in place. One of the things that I need to tell you is that previously with JHipster we used to use embedded Elasticsearch that used to come with it. I think recently it's been removed from JHipster, and maybe because Elasticsearch guys have stopped supporting embedded Elasticsearch. I think, and now what we need to do is we need to run it as a separate service and configure it from JHipster so that it finds and stores the information in there. So now it's telling me Elasticsearch is running. Because I've done some modifications, I need to double check that this one is actually running. So let's do logs and say tail it with F. So actually, yep, we have no problem. So we can see that there it's listening to the IP address and it's ready, and the Java port is open, the HTTP port is open, which is good. So that's fine. We're happy. Now what we need to do is, the next thing we need to do, so let's come out of this and let's go to our application before we